I never thought I'd be writing this, but here I am, caught in a whirlwind of family drama that's been brewing for months. It all started with my wedding day, a day that should have been solely about celebrating the love between me and my wife. Little did I know, it would set off a chain of events that would lead to one of the most controversial decisions I've ever made. Let me take you back to the beginning. My wife and I had been planning our wedding for over a year. We wanted it to be perfect, a day that reflected our love and commitment to each other. We'd carefully chosen every detail, from the venue to the flowers, the music to the menu. It was going to be our day, our moment to shine. About a month before the wedding, my brother approached me with what he thought was a brilliant idea. He wanted to propose to his girlfriend at our wedding reception. At first, I thought he was joking. When I realized he was serious, I was stunned. I mean, who does that? Who thinks it's okay to hijack someone else's wedding for their own romantic gesture? I told him, in no uncertain terms, that it was not okay. I explained that our wedding day was about me and my wife, and we didn't want any distractions. It wasn't just about the attention. It was about respecting the significance of our day. A wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event, and we wanted it to be solely focused on our union. My brother seemed disappointed, but understanding, or so I thought. Little did I know he had other plans brewing. A week later, my mom called me. She was furious. Apparently, my brother had gone to her with his proposal plan, and she was fully on board with the idea. She laid into me, saying that my brother wanted to include family members he might not see again for a while in his proposal. She argued that it would be a beautiful moment, a way to make the day even more special. I was floored. I couldn't believe my own mother was taking his side in this. I stood my ground, telling her that I didn't care about his reasons. This was our day, and if he tried to propose, I would have him kicked out of the wedding. It might sound harsh, but I felt it was necessary to make my point clear. My mom's response? She threatened to leave the wedding too if I dared to kick my brother out. I was hurt and angry. How could my own family be so disrespectful of my wishes on my wedding day? The day of the wedding arrived, and despite the tension, everything was going beautifully. The ceremony was perfect. My wife looked stunning, and I felt on top of the world. As we moved into the reception, I started to relax, thinking maybe my brother had seen sense and decided against his plan. I couldn't have been more wrong. Just as we were about to cut the cake, my brother stood up, glass in hand. I thought he was going to make a toast. Instead, he got down on one knee in front of his girlfriend. The room went silent, and I felt my blood begin to boil. He was actually doing it. He was proposing at my wedding. I wanted to scream, to drag him out of the room, to do something, anything to stop this from happening. But I caught my mom's eye across the room, and the warning look she gave me was clear. If I made a scene, she would leave, just as she had threatened. So I stood there, forcing a smile, as my brother proposed, and the room erupted in cheers. I watched as guests flocked around them, offering congratulations and admiring the ring. It was as if our wedding had suddenly become their engagement party. The rest of the reception was a blur. I tried to focus on my wife, on our guests, on anything but the anger and hurt I was feeling. But it was always there, simmering just below the surface. What should have been the happiest day of my life had been tainted by my brother's selfish act. In the weeks that followed, I struggled to let go of my resentment. My wife was incredibly supportive, understanding my feelings and helping me work through them. We talked about it endlessly, trying to find a way to move past it. But every time I saw my brother or my mom, the anger would flare up again. Then, a few months later, we received the invitation to my brother's wedding. The irony wasn't lost on me. As I held that embossed card in my hand, a plan began to form in my mind. It was petty, I knew that, but a part of me felt like I deserved some payback. You see, my wife and I had recently found out we were expecting our first child. We hadn't told anyone yet, planning to wait until after the first trimester. But as I thought about my brother's wedding, I realized it was the perfect opportunity for a little revenge. The day of the wedding arrived. I sat through the ceremony, my secret burning inside me. As the reception began, I waited for my moment. It came during the toasts. I was expected to give a welcome to the family speech for my new sister-in-law. I stood up, glass in hand, and began to speak. I started off normally enough, welcoming her to the family and wishing the couple well. But then I paused, a smile spreading across my face. And speaking of family, I said, I have an announcement to make. My wife and I are expecting our first child. The room erupted in gasps and cheers. People rushed to congratulate us, asking questions about due dates and nursery plans. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see my brother and his new wife, their smiles frozen on their faces as the attention of the room shifted away from them. My mom was furious. She tried to quiet people down, to redirect attention back to the newlyweds. But then my grandmother, of all people, told her to sit down and shut up. I couldn't believe it. My grandmother, usually so proper and reserved, was taking my side. For the rest of the reception, my wife and I found ourselves surrounded by family members we hadn't seen in ages, all eager to hear about our our upcoming edition. It was exactly what my brother had wanted when he proposed at my wedding, a chance to share his news with family he might not see again for a while. The irony wasn't lost on me. Later that night, my mom cornered me. She was livid, accusing me of being an asshole for taking attention away from my brother on his wedding day. I couldn't help but laugh at the hypocrisy. I reminded her of how she had threatened to leave my wedding if I kicked my brother out after his proposal. I even showed her the screen cap of the text messages she had sent, just in case she had conveniently forgotten. She sputtered, trying to argue that it was different, that a proposal was a joyous occasion, while my announcement was just spiteful. But I didn't back down. I pointed out that both were significant life events. Both were unexpected announcements at someone else's wedding, and both took attention away from the couple getting married. In the days that followed, our family was divided. Some thought I was justified in my actions, a taste of my brother's own medicine. Others believed I had stooped to his level and should have been the bigger person. My brother, surprisingly, seemed more resigned than angry. Maybe he recognized the karmic justice in it all. As for me, I have mixed feelings about what I did. On one hand, I know it was petty and probably not the most mature way to handle the situation. On the other hand, it felt incredibly satisfying to give my brother and mom a taste of their own medicine. Looking back, I realized that this whole situation has revealed some deep-seated issues in our family dynamics. The way my mom consistently takes my brother's side, the lack of respect for boundaries, the inability to communicate effectively. These are all problems that have probably been simmering for years, only to boil over in this dramatic fashion. As my wife and I prepare for the arrival of our child, I find myself reflecting on the kind of family I want to create. I want our home to be one of mutual respect, where everyone's feelings and wishes are considered. I want to break the cycle of pettiness and one-upmanship that seems to have taken hold in my family of origin. At the same time, I can't help but worry about how this incident will affect our relationships going forward. Will my brother and I ever be able to move past this tit for tat? Will my mom ever understand why her actions hurt me so deeply? And how will all of this impact my child's relationships with their uncle, aunt, and grandmother? I don't have all the answers yet, but I do know that I want to do better to be better, not just for myself and my wife, but for our child. Because at the end of the day, family is important, even with all its flaws and complications. So, am I the asshole for announcing my wife's pregnancy at my brother's wedding? Maybe, probably. But in the grand scheme of things, I hope this incident can be a turning point, a chance for all of us to reflect on our actions, to communicate more openly, and to build stronger, more respectful relationships. Because that's what family should be about, right? Not one-upmanship or revenge, but love, support, and mutual respect. It's a lesson I hope to carry forward as I start my own family, breaking the cycle and creating a new, healthier dynamic for the next generation.